Well, welcome today. It's a very special day, and it's not every day that you get to introduce people who saved your life. Yet today, I'm humbled to talk with Benjamin Bisson, our son, and across the table from Natasha, who happens to be the angel who appeared at just the right time on August 26, 9 years ago. And today's going to be a bit different because we're going to hear from Benjamin and Natasha about the event that brought us together more than you're going to hear from me. So, Benjamin, you want to hop in and relive 9 years ago?
Sure. So, from our perspective,
Yeah, from your perspective,
Yeah.
right?
from my perspective with you to start. So, this is 2014,
2014.
August 2014. We were surfing at Reed State Park. We had driven down. It's like 25 minutes from your house in Woolwich, and we were listening to some new music that I had found. We can't remember what it is, which kills us because that would totally be the soundtrack for anytime we talked about it. We'd have to listen to that song, but I can't remember what the music was, but that was
It was
fun.
loud.
Was it loud?
We were playing it loud.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But it wasn't like it was pretty mellow music, I think, if I remember correctly. And it was beautiful sun. We had a fishing pass, so we got in early. The park doesn't open till 9. You walked in before it opened, I assume.
Yes.
And so we went through the gate, parked, surfed,
Lock the gate behind us.
locked the gate behind us, surfed for maybe, I didn't think about that. Surfed for maybe an hour, from maybe like 6 to 7 or 7 to 8. I'm not really sure. But
6.
before.
Yeah, I think we get there a little after 6.
Yeah. So, and then I had watched you surf some, and I remember watching your surfboard go, oh, you fell on a wave, and the surfboard's attached to a leash, which keeps you and the board together. So if you fall, you don't have to swim to get your surfboard. And I watched the leash snap your surfboard basically over your head and was like, oh man, that was pretty violent. Would hate to catch that in the back of the head. And thought nothing of it. We kept surfing. And then
Did you see me again after that?
I don't remember. I'm sure I saw. No, I'm sure I saw you again,
Okay.
but not. I didn't see it happen again.
Mm-hmm.
I only saw it happen once.
Mm.
And then we kept surfing, and then later I was looking for you. I'd seen you go on a wave or something. I can't really remember, but I was looking for you, and I didn't see you, and so I started looking around, and then I saw you floating face down in the water, like basically on. I mean, we were surfing maybe 30 feet from the water line, the water's edge on the beach. And I saw you floating face down maybe 10 feet from the actual water's edge, basically in no water. Does that sound right? Like super close to the shore.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was close. Luckily.
Yeah, I know. So I started paddling towards you because it didn't look right. And I thought maybe you're looking for your watch. You had a surf watch on, or I don't know what you could possibly be doing face down in the water. But when I saw that you weren't moving on your own, you were moving as the water moved you, just limp, I knew that something had happened. And so then I really started paddling, and I felt like I was swimming through concrete because I couldn't move fast enough. And so I ditched my board, which only slowed me down even more, because before I was paddling on my surfboard and I could have caught a wave in, been a little more strategic, but I just ditched my board, and luckily it wasn't that far. So by this time, I had seen Natasha running on the beach. It was like you were nowhere and then you were there. I don't remember seeing you come from a long distance. I remember seeing my dad and being like totally honed in on him, and then seeing you. I'm pretty sure you were yelling.
Yes, I
Yeah.
held. Yes.
Yeah, you were yelling
Yeah.
as you ran towards him, and we pretty much got to him about the same time. Do you remember who got there first? I have no recollection. I mean, maybe
I think
same time, basically.
Same times,
Yeah.
basically, yes.
And we
Yeah.
picked him up. He was face down, so he continued to be face down. and started yelling at him, I think. And then I remember dragging him up far enough so he wasn't in the water anymore and putting him on his back.
Hmm.
I don't remember the surfboard being a part of it.
We did the teamwork. We
Yeah.
hold Rick under his arm.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
drove
Do you
him to
remember
the-
his surfboard being a part of it?
No.
Okay. And maybe I took his leash off or something. I can't remember. Maybe you should tell how you ended up there, or should we just keep going?
Oh, I can tell.
Yeah, tell how you got to there.
So I was visiting my dear friend Matthew Budd. He was there to me because he owns a retreat in the past for women who had cancer. And I was there one day grieving my husband. And from that time of healing, I came back each year. You know, it's my healing place.
Mm-hmm.
And that morning, I don't know. I was walking at the beach, and I felt so sad thinking of my husband and my son, and I didn't understand because it was like it came from nowhere. That thought, because the sadness was very vivid, and
And your husband had passed away. How long ago? That was 9 years before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why it was strange. You know,
Mhm.
it was not recent. And
And your son was how old at that time?
he was um,
He was 6 when Marguerite died.
he
Is that right?
was 10,
10.
when Majoric passed away. Yes, when he died. Yeah. So, and then I told myself, Natasha, you're in this amazing place that you like. You know, it's an amazing day. It was sunny. So stay in the present moment. And then I have the feeling that something is going to happen and I have to be vigilant. And I start looking at you both, watching you, doing your surf. And being impressed because I don't know how to surf.
You were impressed by him, by the way. The other man was just swimming around in the water.
And then I saw you both taking a wave, felt. Benjamin, you went back on your surfing board, not Rick. And this is when I start running because I knew something. I knew you were in trouble. Yeah. So this is how I ended up.
Do you think it was not long between when he fell and when we got to him?
It's the same, like you mentioned, having the impression to swim in the rock. I have the impression that my leg was so heavy, I think from this moment the time's perspective changed a lot. I have the impression you have been in the water for minutes, but I don't know in reality.
Right. Yeah. So we both get to him, drag him up, set him on his back, and we'll maybe get back into, what you had going on and what I had going on. But we set him on his back, and I'm immediately yelling at him. I remember putting my hand on his neck to feel for a pulse, and I couldn't. It was like there was nothing. It was like mush, and I couldn't feel anything. And so I remember grabbing his wrist and feeling there, and there was nothing that I could tell, and he definitely wasn't breathing. So I started doing CPR.
Yeah, what I remember from that moment, I had a moment of despair because you were screaming, "Dad, Dad." And just because I just thought of my son, and then you look at me and you said, we have to do CPR. And it brings me back to the moment. Yes, that's what we have to do. And you start doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how long it was. I remember hearing that you looked at his watch.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
After 4 minutes, I remember the time.
Okay.
We did the CPR for 4 minutes. Then I don't know. I don't remember if I told you we need help.
Yeah.
We need an ambulance.
Yeah. And so then you did CPR, and I went and got my phone from my car and called 911, told them we were at the beach. I was at the car when I told them we're at the beach, we're at Reed State Park. My dad is not breathing, no pulse, we're doing CPR. You need to get here. We're at Todd's Point. Gave him all the details and then hung up, I think. Maybe left it on. I can't remember. And I remember running down from the rocks at Todd's Point and being tired and first I thought, God, you know where I'm at right now. I'm not in a good place personally. I need this to go my way, basically. We're not going to negotiate. You just have to fix this, basically. Like, no, I'm not asking. You're going to fix this. And very assumptive close on that. And then on the way down, remember feeling fatigued. It was starting to we're maybe 10 minutes in at this point. And I mean, I'd been surfing ahead of time. And I remember thinking, if you slow down and your dad doesn't make it and you don't give everything you have from now until 20 minutes from now, you are going to forever regret that you didn't push harder, just a little bit harder. What if? You're going to always ask yourself, what if? And so I just was like, can't think about being tired. And then got back to you. And I think I started doing CPR again.
When you came back, while you were calling, I was holding the head of your father, and I remember the pupil were very, very, very tiny, and I was again in a moment of, no, it cannot happen again, in the same kind of mood, no negotiation, it cannot happen again. And I was telling you, Rick, sir, you have to come back. You have to come back. And he came back because while I was holding his head, I saw his pupil being, start from being very tiny to,
dilated.
Yes. And then, Rick, you look like a fish on a counter. your body, you were trying to breathe. And Benjamin, you came back, and I told you, I put your hand on his chest, and I said, his heart is beating. Do you remember?
I remember you putting, I don't remember I don't remember the timeline of things very well, but I remember the moments where you said, it's working. I remember we turned him to his side because he was foaming and vomiting a little bit. So we turned him to his side to clear his mouth out. And then
was that when I started to breathe?
I feel like it was before.
It was before.
Was that before I called?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's really a blur for me from coming back. The lifeguard showed up at some point. You remember that? The young girl came.
You were telling your dad, don't try to talk, just breathe. And you were breathing with your dad.
I was breathing for him?
With him.
Oh,
really? Like to
coaching
show him how to breathe. Yeah.
I remember the lifeguard, she must have been 16, coming, and I was like, just you're not going to do anything that we're already doing. And she was like freaking out.
Yeah.
And she just sat at the top of his head. I remember I was on the Todd's Point side. You were on the Griffith's Head side, and she was on the shore side. And then I don't remember how quickly it went from he was breathing and you saying his heart is beating to them showing up. I don't really have any. I remember them showing up and taking over and cutting his wetsuit off. But
who cut my wetsuit off?
Paramedics. I don't remember. But I was like, oh, that's a good wetsuit gone.
I remember the guy asking me to explain what happened. Couldn't find a word in English. Couldn't speak English. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Maybe while we have a little comic relief, you could tell us where you're from, Natasha.
I'm from Quebec.
Quebec, yes. Yeah.
My first language is obviously French.
Right.
Yeah. So, do you remember anything else between either before I called or after I called, because to me that's really all I remember. I remember yelling at him. I remember getting pretty desperate at one point, and it's probably before I called. And I remember I might have hit him kind of like this in the chest and pretty much screaming at him.
The only thing I remember just before you went to call is you look at me and you said, okay, because you asked if I had a phone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, and you might not remember it, but I was not wearing just my bra and my underwear at that point.
I don't
because
remember that at all.
Oh, did you take things off to get in the water?
Yes,
That is
because it was
hilarious.
too heavy. Yeah, because when you left, I felt so embarrassed. That's why I remember.
I have no recollection of that. That's hilarious. It's funny what you don't notice when your world is collapsing.
Yes. And then you said, okay, so I have a phone in my car. I'm gonna go to make the call, and you'll do the CPR. And it was.
Did you ask if she knew CPR?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It was. I didn't know the CPR, but it was since the beginning we worked together. You know,
Mhm.
Benjamin was doing mouth to mouth, the breathing. I was cleaning you, and we were rolling you on the side together. So I think the teamwork was good.
Yeah.
He trusts me, and I was very decided to.
What was my color like?
No idea. White.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, you were dead.
Yeah, you were. Definitely. Yeah, and when you first when you first breathe again, you were trying to say something, and I thought you were cold because of the color of your skin. Yeah.
He's been cold ever since.
Yeah. I have been cold ever since. Yes.
So I remember them coming, and once they got there, I was like,
yeah, we put Rick on the surf, and we brought him to the ambulance.
On the surfboard?
I thought it was on a backboard. Was it on a surfboard?
Oh, maybe.
I feel like we put him on a surfboard maybe for a little bit just to get him, because I think the tide was coming in. I'm not totally sure on that. And we brought him up a little further, and then I think they put him on a backboard, because then they had they hooked him up to oxygen, and he was trying to like pull it off his face. And then we carried him up the path, or the beach, to the path, and then from there. But as we were carrying him up, I remember him looking at me and saying, which he gets these details a little foggy, I think, but he said something like, "What happened?" And I said, "You were in an accident surfing." And he said, "Did you save me?" And I said, "Yes."
And you saved my life. And I love you. That's what I remember saying the most.
I think then you said, "I love you." And I think I said, "I love you" back. But all I remember is him saying, "What happened?" Me telling him, and then him saying, "Did you save me?"
And was I on the backboard at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is as you're going up, and you're still kind of like, I could see your arms moving. So to me, I was like all about you trying to take the mask off, because it meant your arms were moving. I hadn't seen your legs move yet. So that is kind of getting into the later part, which is from there. I don't remember if we talked.
Yeah, we did, because I had this watch.
Okay.
And I give it back to you, and I say, "By the way, my name is Natasha."
Yeah.
And you hug me, and you say, "Thank you," and you left.
Yeah. I went with the sheriff.
Yeah.
Which I knew from growing up in the area. He knew who I was. It was Matt Shires, right? Mm-hmm. And he drove me to Dairy Queen to meet my mom and Jamie. I can't remember if Juliet was there. And Juliet. And I called them and said, I said something about like, "Are you sitting down?" or something. And my mom knew something. She knew that I was calling, that something was not good. And I said, "Dad was in an accident. He's headed to Main Med. I need you to pick me up at Dairy Queen." And so they picked me up. They didn't know anything. They picked me up. I said he was alive, but I didn't. So they picked me up, and they're like, "He's fine, right?" And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, he was breathing when we left, but I haven't seen him move his legs yet.
Didn't Matt Shire say that I was going to be fine?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think so.
That to me is a promise that he couldn't guarantee.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like
His intentions were good in
trying to
saying
be
that.
dramatic.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I was just saying, I haven't seen you move your legs yet. Who knows what's going to happen? So we get in, and Matt really like grabbed me at the scene and was like, "This kid's not going to be okay if I don't like talk to him." So he was like really cool on the way home, and he kept it light, and we kind of joked back and forth about like how, you know, that there'll just be a little trauma from this and no big deal. It's just your dad kind of thing. Or I don't even remember really what we were just joking the whole way back. And then I met my mom and 2 sisters at Dairy Queen, and I'm like changing out of my wetsuit in the Dairy Queen parking lot, and they're like freaking out about what's going on. So the funny part of this is not really relevant, but we are going to go to the hospital. We're in this white VW Beetle that barely fits 4 people. And we're about to pull out, and there are these people. I know they were from Canada. I can't remember if it was Quebec. But they're like, "Do you know how to get to Portland?" And my mom is like, "Follow us. We're going there now." Well, they don't know what we've just been through. So we pull out of Dairy Queen and go left, which is crossing Route 1. You would never do that in your right mind. And they like zip behind us, and we are just weaving through traffic on 295 to get to Portland. And these poor people are like,
they're really going to get us to Portland.
And so we, booked it to Portland. And then that's pretty much where, that's where my story kind of ends, and it becomes more of your story. And then I don't even know how things happen. I don't know how we reconnected or how you found out what was going on or what.
So tell us about what happened to you. So the ambulance leaves and you're there alone.
I was there alone, not capable of speaking English, in underwear.
In underwear. Where are my clothes?
So I asked a lady that was there. I think it was a ranger. She was working at the park to drive me back.
Tall woman?
Yes.
Sam.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I asked her, "Could you please drive me back at Matthew's place?" And she did.
So you got a ride back because you had walked.
Yes.
And Matthew's place from where you were watching is
20 minutes.
20-minute walk.
But I looked funny.
Right. It wasn't a walk you wanted to make. Yeah.
No. And then when I arrived, I was in shock. And then the couple of days after, I was not sure about how you were. And I was very anxious because, as you mentioned, Benjamin, at the beach, we ask you, squeeze our hand if we can hear, squeeze it. But you did nothing. So I didn't know, in what state you were. And so I was very concerned. So then Matthew suggests, okay, we're going to find him, we're going to find where he is. And so that's how I end up visiting you at the hospital. And I think we talked, Benjamin, in the phone. Just you told me he was going under a surgery for his neck, and I think I visit you.
It was after my surgery.
After your surgery,
it was.
Yeah.
I remember being in the room. I had been moved from ICU, and I was in a room, and I'm laying in bed. My sister Jenny was there, and this person came to the door, and there were other people in the room. So I didn't know if this person was coming to see me or not. I didn't recognize this person, and thought she might see the person next to me. And then this person started walking towards me. And I'm thinking in my mind, do I know this person because I had a lot of people coming in to see me. Is this a grade school? Somebody I recognize from high school, college, Chop Point camp, skiing. And then you spoke, and I knew exactly who it was from your accent. Not that I recognized your accent, but I knew that you were Canadian and blonde hair. Because I have in my mind this vision of that, again, what's real and what's not, I can remember seeing a vision of a woman on the beach walking before this happened, blonde hair, and but different clothes. I remembered seeing a white shirt and blue pants.
Well, maybe that's what you were wearing before you took them off.
It's funny. Yes. It's funny because I was wearing a gray suit, and when I visit you at the hospital, you were saying to me, you were dressed like in blue, like
Virgin
Marie,
Mary.
Virgin.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm more Marie Madeleine than Virgin Mary. No, I didn't wear blue, so I was shying.
That's funny.
Yeah. So.
Well, what happened when you met? What did you guys talk
Oh,
about?
when we met, I mean, I just remember a lot of blubbering.
We cried.
We cried a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. Hugged for a long time. And yeah, I don't know that it was a long visit, but it was a connection.
I was very relieved to see
Yeah.
that you were alive and healthy.
I was so relieved to have met you. I mean, when you came in and spoke, I think you came in and really, and you embraced me, you hugged me, and you whispered or spoke in my ear, and I was like, oh yes, I finally found the person that didn't make the complete burden of my son saving me, because who knows how that would have turned out. So it was a tremendous relief to know who you were, and to know that we could, I think my sister might have taken down your information so that we could connect again, as soon as possible. Yeah.
And you never know how you can't imagine how that would go, whether that person would be like, I never want to see you again, or it was too much trauma, or whether you become lifelong friends, we're so grateful that that's how it's turned out. But
and I remember, I think it was one of the first times that I went out. It was kind of a celebration. It wasn't a time frame, but it was a few months after the accident, and you were back in town and came out to eat with us. Do you remember that? Yeah. And I remember saying to you something about, how much we value you, and I wouldn't be here without you. And how I got thinking about what it must mean to you to be able to participate in this story. And I said something like, the significance of being involved in saving somebody's life. And you said, well, you're not my first. I was crushed. Devastated.
Yes, you said, I thought I was special.
Yeah, that's what I said. I thought I was special.
You have a good memory.
Yes, she does.
That's my work. I am listening to people.
Yeah. It's a good thing, because the two of us put together barely have half a memory. So, especially from that day. I mean, it's so foggy for me.
It's interesting what you just mentioned, Benjamin, because you said you never know how it's gonna go, and it was the same for me, And I was thinking of what I wanted to share in the podcast, what I get from this experience, not just what happened, but one thing is really related to that. I was wondering, I was scared after I met you to be judged, because you have faith, you're religious. I have faith too, but I'm not religious. At that time, I was working with a sex worker, and so I work with very marginal people, and I didn't know how you and you,
Right.
both of you, we look at me, and this is, I'm gonna say it later, but this is something I get. Something I learned from this experience about difference, and I'm gonna tell you later.
No, go now.
Go now?
I want to hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, at no moment, never, when I saw you floating in the sea, I asked myself if you were rich, if you were black, if you were trans, if you were not trans, you know, if you were a good person, if you were convict. If I never ask those questions, never. We sorry, I get emotive.
You have to look at me or you'll cry.
Good trick. I have a life to save. That was it.
You knew it was trouble.
What I mean by that is we all the time we devise, you know, humanity, you know, we devise group of people. And I know because I work with, as I mentioned, marginalized people that are often judged. What I mean by that is I never think of your differences. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter. And in fact, it does not matter. We are more close, and your life is precious. Your life was precious. Mine too, yours too, as everybody else's life. We belong to this world. And everybody's belong to this world. If we are God creation, we all belong. And we are creature of God too. You know? So to me, it's really, the differences doesn't matter. This is what I got from there, that experience. And we did that to us. We distance ourselves to others people, like if we are different. Of course, we are different in some ways, but the important is not being different. It's how we are the same, and how much we share common hope, desire, needs.
Yeah. The after for me, when I realized that I was alive, or to what extent I was now alive. This is in a hospital bed, you know, a couple hours after I've been triaged. I had to let everybody know that I love them. And if it was the nurse or anybody that came in, but especially people, anybody that I knew. And I still have that feeling today. I may not be as, what's the word I want to say? Crazed about it, I guess. I might have been a little bit crazed.
Militant
in the beginning, yes.
Yeah, I remember, I think we kind of let you go for like a calendar year. We let him tell anyone. He would just walk up to people and start telling them the story. I think after a year, we were kind of like, okay. we're gonna only share it if people ask. And, you know. But I'm sure we probably shouldn't have done that, but
I don't remember you reining me back anyways.
Oh,
honestly.
I remember. I remember feeling bad, but I think it's such an important story and telling people, and we've always talked about recording it or talking about it or having it somehow. I don't even know how we planned on it before. But it's so interesting to hear the little details that you remember versus the little details that I remember, because to me, it gets foggier and foggier every year, and I really only remember the things that I've told people. I remember telling people that, you know, you looked at his watch. I didn't know that it was 4 minutes before I went and got my phone. Well, that's a long time to be doing CPR and have them not breathe for a while before that.
We did it for 15 minutes, and how I remember it's because I wrote.
Really?
Yes. I
After.
Yes.
Yeah, you wrote down the details.
Yeah.
See, I did. 23 years old, did not think to do that. But it's funny because we have friends who are doctors, ER doctors, and the thing that they famously said about, that we repeat over and over, that about the situation was, and I had trained lifeguards for 2 or 3 years before this.
You were certified in CPR and lifeguarding, and you were a certified lifeguard instructor.
Yeah, so I was training the person to do it rather than just train to do it. So I really had it in my head, and it's pretty simple. I mean, for anyone out there, it's air goes in and out and blood goes round and round, pump and blow. And now it's just pump, but I might advocate for putting some air in there. But they said that I was smart enough to know what to do and dumb enough to think it would work.
Wow.
So that's like the famous line, because really, statistically, he shouldn't have made it.
Yeah. We were very determined, you and
I was not. I mean, they would have had to pull me off his dead body at some point. I was not about to give up. And I really didn't. I really was pretty confident that it was going to go the way it should go. Mostly, whether it was denial or, whatever, I was like, this is going to work because it has to work. And it's funny that, like, I don't know that I knew how similar you felt about the situation, that it was like, listen, this has to go the right way.
Yeah.
Are you willing to share some of that, Natasha?
Some of...
Well, you're from what I understand from you telling me, when you realized that we were father and son,
Yeah.
how that connected and resonated with you.
Well, there's a lot of things that we cannot explain from that day. I think what happened is a miracle.
Yes. Yeah.
In many ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, in some ways I felt like Majoric was there.
And Majoric was your husband?
Yes. Or he arranged a connection or whatever, if it can be.
Mm-hmm.
Another way, I felt like I was powerless towards the death of Majoric. And I wasn't that morning, like I could do something. So I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe it's the alchemy of something very difficult and destructive being transformed in something constructive. And yeah. I was very emotive earlier, but I was talking about differences. After I met you, I was also very, very pleased of the person I you are.
You kept around.
Yes. Yeah. And also I never felt judged, or that was my fear, but I never felt that. No, I felt a connection.
Oh, yes, connection, permanent part of our family.
Yes.
Yeah. What else do you want to? Is there anything you want to touch on, or anything that you want to share, Natasha?
I don't know. Should I?
What do we have for time?
We're pretty good with time, actually.
Okay.
Well, I guess I can share the part that's missing, which is the part from me surfing on a wave. And I'm not a very strong surfer. I spend time with this man in the water playing because that's what I enjoy, watching him. And I'll catch a wave once in a while. And I'm not very good at judging which wave is a good one or not. His nod of yes or no, Dad, is a good sign for me. And we were not side by side anymore. We were kind of in our own places. So I'm on a wave, and I said, this one doesn't feel good. So I have a bad habit of ditching my surfboard, so to speak. So I pushed it off to the side, and I'm doing the washing machine tumble dry, in the wave, in the water, sort of balled up and waiting for the wave to pass and to pop up. And just before I was going to pop up, all of a sudden felt like a bolt of lightning had struck me in the back of my neck. And I felt like my neck was just glass shattering inside. and this intense pain came over my neck to my arms to my toes to everything, but mostly in my neck and down into my arms. And I all of a sudden I just couldn't move. I was completely paralyzed. But I was awake and my eyes were open and I could see the light above me. And I felt like I was, basically standing still, not standing still, but floating still in the water. Um, and that my limbs were extended, I guess is what I mean. And that if I could just feel a little twitch in my chin, because I'd had, they call them stingers in football, when your neck gets bent, cranked hard, and it would send these zinging feelings down your arms. And eventually, you kind of get it back. And it kind of started in your chin. It felt like, well, I felt like that was going to happen any minute. And when that started to happen, I'd be fine. And it was clear that wasn't happening. So I just said, okay, I got three choices here. I hold my breath, Benjamin comes and gets me in time, or today's the day that I go to heaven. No doubts in my mind. It wasn't time to think about it. And didn't take me long to say, okay, I'm reviewing life and going through what's going to happen or what's happened. And I said, shucks, I'm sad to be leaving, but at the same time, I lived the life that I wanted to. I was a good dad. I was a good husband. I left behind what I could leave behind in the time that I had. I wasn't going through the regrets of not having been a good father or being a good husband or a good person. And I wasn't going through, oh God, I'm so sorry for all the mistakes in my life. I need to ask for forgiveness.
You were in peace.
I was at peace. I really was. And it was an incredible state of mind to be in because things were so clear and magnified, and they were happening at a pace inside my brain that, the human brain is an amazing thing. So I'm having those thoughts, and the 23rd Psalm is running in the back of my mind. And I had a shortened version at that time. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And it was the shadow of death part that I was really focusing on at that point in time. But I wasn't focusing on that alone. I was thinking about, that. And inside my brain, all of a sudden, I've got this like a clock tick-tocking. And it's left and it's right, sort of like I'm not moving, I don't think. But I have this sense that one way is stay and one way is go. And it's just tick tock, tick tock. And all these things are layered on top of one each other, happening at the same time. And I don't remember, I don't remember opening my mouth. I don't remember stopping. I don't remember, trying to hold on to holding my breath. It wasn't that kind of struggle. There was not this screaming inside of my head like, that last bit of air that I was trying to hold on to. I don't remember that. I'm sure I'm protected from that, probably. But at some point in time, I would say I did, because that's how you found me on the other side. And, in this process, the first thing that happened is, I don't know that I sensed myself leaving my body, but I can remember looking down and seeing my body floating in the water, face down, towards the shore. There's no waves, and there's no wind, and there's no noise. It's quiet, but I can see that there. I don't remember seeing you or you around. And then shortly, I guess, in this time frame, there was this feeling of going someplace. And the closest I can come to it in terms of a physical feeling or a presence, when you take off in an airplane and you make that initial ascent and that climb, it felt like that. And it also, when there's a bridge in Richmond, and when you go west on that bridge and you look, you can't see, there's no horizon in view. And it's at the right angle that sort of feels that way. So I try really hard not to close my eyes when I drive across that bridge because it's the same feeling. So then what I remember is I'm you and Natasha, Benjamin and Natasha, you're pulling me out of the water and I'm behind. Somehow or other, I can see the process of you picking me up from my arms from beside and dragging me out of the water. And the other thing about this, it became more of a journey beyond. It was like the best way I can describe sort of I'm not going to get there yet. The next thing that I saw was looking down and you're doing CPR on me. And again, there's no wind and there's no waves and it's quiet. I can't hear you yelling at me or yelling things. But I can clearly see the CPR going on. And then there was nothing else to be seen. And now I'm in this place where I'm traveling through something. And the closest I can put this in perspective is I'm driving down a road and I think of the road to Chop Point. And it's a long straightaway before you get to Chop Point. And the amazing thing is that Chop Point has been a huge part of my faith and my connection to my path to heaven. So, how much of this is made up and real, I don't know, but to me it's real. Mm. And when you drive down that straightaway, especially towards September timeframe, and you've got green leaves and yellow leaves and orange leaves, and the blue sky squeaks through and a little sun ray will come in, it was just so beautiful. Mm. And it was so calm and there was so much peace where I was. Mm. And then I remember I wasn't alone. Mm. Someone was with me. And I can't say that it was Jesus. Mm. But it was that presence. Mm-hmm. And it was so wonderful. Mm. And it was so peaceful. And I don't know, I didn't get, some people say they'll have the message that it's not your time yet and it's okay to, you need to go back. Mm. I don't know that happened. But then the next thing for me is I remember in my sequence of things looking at Benjamin, and I thought I was on the beach, probably because I had
You are on the beach.
I am on the beach. Yeah,
but you were on the beach. You were on the way up to the.
Okay, yeah, but to me, I was laying in the sand. Probably because I had so much sand all over me.
Yeah.
I kind of remember stuff. I was probably trying to get rid of the oxygen. I was irritated a little bit, and I opened my eyes, and I saw you, and that's when I said, I think I thought I said, have I been in an accident? Because I remembered, last thing I remembered, I was in trouble.
No, you said, what happened?
What happened?
Yeah, and I told you.
Yeah. Hmm. And I don't remember.
You don't remember the ambulance ride at all?
Not at all. No, I remember waking up at the hospital in the triage room, so to speak, in the ER, and the doctor asking me questions. I had no answers. I had absolutely no idea what happened. I just knew I wanted them to fix me because I was in so much pain.
Mm.
They probably sedated you in the ambulance.
I'm probably sedated me in the ambulance.
They're probably like, we don't need to deal with this guy.
Yeah.
Too many questions.
Yeah. Yeah. He's making too much noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, so I said I was irritated. I'm not sure that's the right word because none of this whole experience to me has any sense of, other than the pain that I felt when it happened, and I can connect some of the pain that I have today to it, but from the minute that I became so clear and at peace underwater, that pain went away just like that. There was no more struggle in my mind about that. And it didn't come back until I was in a hospital bed, I don't know how many that was hours afterwards, maybe an hour afterward, I was conscious. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, maybe it was selfish of us to bring you back. You'd found your happy place.
Well, I will tell you, there was, I had surgery and there was a recovery after that and a lot of pain. And I just wasn't sure if the pain was ever going to end. Where was that going to be? And, I taken some drugs to make the pain better and doing some rehab. And I was so thrilled to be alive. And, I just wanted to be with the people that meant the most to me as much as possible. And everybody was there for me. I mean, it was fabulous. And I couldn't make this pain go away. And there were a few times when I'm like, shoot, I missed out.
Yeah.
And now I'm here.
Yeah.
I got to make this work.
Mm-hmm.
And there aren't many events that I don't say I'm the luckiest man in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see his grandchild.
Hopefully. Got 2 more months, man. Pay attention on the road.
Yeah.
I remember you were struggling with what is my purpose in life? What is the purpose of this second chance?
Yes. That was my big struggle.
Yeah.
In addition to telling people how much I love them, it really was. I remember my mother coming in and talking to her about it, and she said I was just crazed almost. I just needed to know why I was here. Yeah.
Do you know now?
Well, I'm like Benjamin said, I've had to soften a little bit, but I'm convinced that loving everybody always and letting everybody know that there's a defining moment in life when you will be aware that you're passing. And it may come from a traumatic experience or event. It may come from old age, or it may come from a long illness not due to age. When that moment comes, you will have a moment of grace with an invitation to connect with the invitation to spend your life in eternity or not. And if you've made the decision before then, great. If not, you can reconcile and you can make that decision right then. There's no such thing. I'm convinced there's no such thing as sudden death. And I've had a lot of people ask me, a friend will die or a relative will die, and do you think they're in heaven, Rick? I don't know. I can't say that. I only can tell them that I know that they had an opportunity at the end to make a decision. So I think, and I've been able to help some people who have experienced, a loss to some extent. And actually, I helped someone in real estate not too long ago whose husband drowned in a kayak accident. And I didn't know it for quite a while in working with her. And then she told me. And so it was nice to be able to help her know that his passing was at least a peaceful passing. If I could go again, I'd go drowning, I think.
Not a bad way to go.
Not a bad way to go. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, the initial instance was fine. Like, I handled it. I mean, it was a little dramatic and yelling and whatever. It's not like I was like calm, but it was fine. And then after he got in the ambulance, I was like, I want nothing to do with this anymore. Totally checked out. Like, my brother took care of him afterwards, and I was like, I can't do any. Like, I was like, if he's on fire, I'll put him out, But caretaking is not my strong suit in general, but I was like glad to do what I did, and I didn't feel traumatized. I have dealt with trauma since, but I didn't feel traumatized in the moment. I didn't feel like that was such a burden, or I can't believe why me, or I was just grateful. But then watching the process for the last 9 years since, of how hard it was for me afterwards to see him. I think what was hard was it was easier for me to see him dead than with a neck brace on and unable to walk. That was like too much. I remember growing up as a kid, he would get injured. He is very accident prone. This is not the first time people are hearing or knowing this. So anytime that would happen, it would be really hard on me to watch, your hero be human, not Superman. And watching him get better has been good. Watching him get old, watching him slow down, need more time to recover, that has been far more difficult on me than I feel the accident was. Because the accident to me, it was a year and you were doing pretty much what you could do a year previously. Maybe not as well, but given the physical trauma was pretty impressive. But I think 50 to 60 and 60 to 70 and 70 to 80 will be much harder on me than the accident. And I've kind of been dealing with that in my own way, because I'm feeling myself go from 30 to 40 and realizing that
Not yet, but you can see it coming. You mean?
Yeah,
The 30 to
going
40,
going
yes.
30 to 40. I'm no longer getting better at most of the things in my life. I'm getting worse at them. And there are a few things I'm trying to get better at so I can fight the inevitable. But I feel like that was the thing that I took away from this the most, was the window of life is very, very short, and it can be quickly or suddenly closed. And I don't approach it the same way as him with loving people, and to me it's much more about being the person I want to be today, and not waiting and saying, "Oh, I'll change in 10 years or 20 years when I have kids and I need to." It's like, no, you got to do that inner work today, because you'll never do it if you say you're going to do it tomorrow or in 10 years. So that's kind of like what I've gained from it. I'm sure I still have more to process through, because I'm not someone that actively seeks inner healing. I have, but it hasn't been something I've wanted to do. It's been something I know I've needed to do and have done because I know I needed to. And it was hard. It was hard for me with you you're so connected to someone for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then, we see each other once a year now.
Yes.
It's such a strange thing.
Yes.
And I owe you everything and nothing,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
It's just such a crazy connection.
Well, I owe you both.
Yeah, you do.
Everything.
I know. For a while after, I think it was like the first year after, everyone was like, Benjamin can do whatever he wants now. Which I already could, but then it was like I really could do whatever I want. I was like, buy me this, no, whatever. It wasn't really buy, but yeah. But it's a crazy. It's really 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That everything stood still, and it was just the three of us, and life goes on beyond that. But that was a wild 20 minutes.
And it was really just the two of you, because I wasn't there.
Yeah. But you had your own crazy, intense experience in that window.
Yeah.
How far up the beach did you pull me?
At the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the tide was coming in, you think?
I think it was.
We were we took care that you weren't wet by the water.
Yeah.
But
not much.
Not much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know I get I picture myself kind of in the middle between Todd's Point and Griffith's Head. Griffith's Head, thank you. But Benjamin says, "No, Dad, It wasn't there.
It was
over
like
here.
Todd's Point.
Yeah.
You were more mid beach
Mm-hmm.
and came to Todd's Point.
Yeah.
To meet us.
Yeah.
And we were both surfing when you first came to the beach. I mean,
Yes.
you saw us out there,
Yeah.
but didn't know we were father and son.
No. Until Benjamin, approached you when you were underwater and scream at you, Dad. Yeah.
I should have just called you Rick.
Yeah. No, it's not a traumatic memory at all because we are lucky. The ending is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to you can encounter people that have never seen a miracle.
Mm.
And I think anyone who doesn't have hope
Mm.
probably has never seen a miracle. But if you've seen a miracle happen, like, it will change you.
Yes.
And I don't know how many people have seen miracles. I feel like I've seen a few. That's definitely the best example of one I have. But it will change you to know that what we're seeing, there's a thin veil between what we see and what really is. And we don't know what really is. It's just what we see. But we've certainly seen behind the veil a little bit.
I connect with what you're saying, Benjamin, because for me, it's really being humble and amazed in the same time, amazed by the beauty of the world, the chance we have to be alive, and humble because there's so much thing we cannot explain. And going back to what I said before, we are used to devise, to disconnect ourselves from others. But it does not belong to us to judge. We have to stay humble and amazed by others, amazed by any form of life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know so much.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. We don't know. Yeah.
Anything else? I think we've reached a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
You're
being here,
welcome.
Natasha, and for being there.
And we cry, both of us, Benjamin.
I'm a wall. I'm a wall.
When he tips, it becomes suddenly. It's like, what is that?
It's anger. When I'm angry, I will cry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When I got to know you, you were saying, sorry, I cry. And I was so grateful. Finally, I know someone who cry as much as me.
Yeah. My wife is a good balance. She's very in touch with her emotions. And I'm interested to see I think having a child will break me.
Yeah.
I know. And I'm like, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
But I will never force it. I will only I will cry. It's very rare. And it's either anger or like inspiration, like triumph, watching people triumph, an athlete or someone that's overcome great adversity. That's like, oof.
Me too.
But sad or sentimental is just kind of like, yeah, it was awesome. He's still here.
Yeah. Well, I love you both very much.
Yeah.
And love you all out there. And thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.